Hello, this video is on assemblies in SOLIDWORKS. Up until this point, we've been using part files. To use sort of another program analogy, you can think of a part file more like maybe like a Photoshop document or an Illustrator document. An assembly is more like an InDesign document where it's one file type that points to many different links and puts them together. So I like part files for the design phase. It keeps everything in one location. There's not like links that get lost. And it's just helpful for that kind of level of streamlined work. An assembly is useful, I think, for further along the development path. Maybe you're working with engineers who are providing different part files that you need to link to, or maybe the design is getting further developed, so it needs to be actually split into different parts for manufacturing. So yeah, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have files open that you want to place into your assembly. So we're just going to start simple. I have the toaster interior open. This will probably be suppressed. I also have a heater open and a rack, and all these files will be provided to you. So I'm going to create a new assembly, and what happens when it loads is it's going to start with a begin assembly property dialog. And the reason I recommended opening the documents you want to use is it will automatically have this list here for you. If you forgot to open one or you don't want to open your files, you can always browse and look for the parts you need. So the first thing you want to place in your assembly is sort of like the main part. So this might be the main toaster body, or again, in this case, we'll just start with this toaster interior. So I'm going to simply select this and click on the green check. And now it's very important to take that step, because by clicking on it in here and clicking on the green check, what it does is it aligns the planes. So the front plane, right plane, and top plane are all automatically aligned. If you select from there and click in the viewing window, it might put it in a slightly different alignment, which is sort of a bit sloppy and just not ideal. So obviously we need to add more links to this. So I'm going to say insert component existing part. And again, here these are open. I'm going to click on this push pin to keep this open so I can add multiple things. So we have one rack that slides in here on the bottom, and I can just click anywhere in the viewing window. And we have two heating elements where I can just sort of click twice in here to place two of them. When I'm done, I think I can just click either of these to make that go away. But you can see the different ways that I added files into this assembly was by clicking the green check for this first one, where it's like fully defined and aligned with the planes, and by clicking in the viewing window for these most recent three. And you can see that these are not fully defined and actually float around and can be placed wherever I want. Now, we want to align these to the main interior, and we're going to do that with a command called mates. It looks like a paperclip here. So I'm going to go ahead and load that command. And here it's basically just asking us, for different parts that we want to add relations to. And these relations, like these words coincident, parallel, tangent, you'll probably recognize from sketches because the wording is basically identical. So to show you how this works, we can start by placing one of these heaters. So for example, with this box highlighted, which is how it automatically loads, I can select like this face, for example. And now if I rotate and select this interface, you can see it kind of snaps it and like puts them together like a magnet. And now I can click on the green check here, and I can just sort of keep going. I can, for example, click on this face, and this interior is designed for this to sort of be the thing that holds it. It can be sometimes hard to like see, what you're aligning. So sometimes you need to exit out of, this dialogue and move apart in order to like see something. So for example, let's say you're unable to click something. I can just click the green check. I can slide this out now. You can, if I try and drag like up and down, it won't let me because it's mated to that face. If I try and drag left and right, it can slide forward, which this is a bit misleading. Maybe let me give a top view to show this. If I try and drag left and right, you can see it's not sliding left and right, again, because it's mated. But sometimes, yeah, you need to exit the mating property box in order to drag something. So like now I can see this face, and I want to mate it back to this one. So I can load this again and sort of just continue. sometimes you'll find that the order in which you mate really doesn't matter unless it prevents you from, selecting a face or something. Sometimes, they might sort of obscure each other. Let's say you clicked on the wrong thing. You can select this here and sort of just hit delete and like reselect the face. In this case, that didn't really matter too much. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and keep clicking on this journey. And it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, and straightforward. We now have both of our heaters determined. Next, we're going to do the rack. So, and I forgot to mention that SOLIDWORKS kind of makes an assumption as to like the best command. You can always change it, but all of those commands I just did, you can see they're all labeled as coincident, which just basically means touching. Now for the rack, it's going, you'll see if I click on this face and I click on, for example, this face, you can see that it's not coincident. It makes the assumption of tangent, which is good. That's what we want. Again, click on the screen check, and now we can continue. We can select this and select this face here. Now, sometimes this may happen, right? You can see that clearly I want it in this pocket, but it's outside of it. In order to fix that, you want to look at the mate alignment, and I can flip it. I can click on this one here, and you can see it just slides it over to be on the other side. So just remember these buttons here. They're incredibly helpful and important. And I can click check. Now, one way you can verify your work, if it's done properly, is you can click on an object and drag it. And you can see actually there's a pop-up here that said this is fully defined. It cannot be moved. That's good. Now, in some circumstance, you may want something to move like this rack that can come in and out. I can click on this and drag, but you'll quickly see that there's a problem, is that because it's only tangent to this like corner, it's kind of, you can see it like pivots on it as well. And we can simply fix that by going back to the mate command, clicking on this face here, and then clicking on this face here. Now, sometimes if you're like defining something like this, it's possible to over-define it or create something that it cannot solve. Let's see, will it? Yeah. So here it's basically telling me like, hey, it can't be tangent to that face. And the reason why is because like it's already stuck to this face, and the rack is just simply not wide enough to make it and touch this far right one. So you may get an error if you do just sort of like try a different, element to connect it to. And now we have a rack that kind of slides in and out. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe that's annoying that it's sliding. You can always then mate sort of this final, back cylinder to the back face. And now at this point, this should be fully defined and it can't move. Yeah, and then when you're done, you can just sort of like save this as, your toaster interior. And the thing with assemblies is you can place them within each other. So for example, to continue on this, I might make another new assembly. And in this case, I don't have it open, so I need to browse for it. I can find this toaster body I built in the previous demo. And again, to start off the assembly, I want to click the green check. If I click in this window, it's going to place it in kind of an arbitrary location. By doing it that way that I just did, it will align the front plane with the front plane, so on and so forth. You'll also notice if I click and drag on this that it's fully defined. It won't move, which is what we want. That's good. So now we can add the different components. So again, I'm going to pin this. Here we have this interior assembly we just made, so I can place that box there. And now I can browse, for example, for the other elements that we want. So maybe, the handle that you designed. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I forgot to select the handle here. And perhaps also the knob that's designed. And again, with this push pin pulled, this dialog won't leave until I click either of these icons. And here we want two knobs. And there we should be good. If you accidentally overplaced elements like I did here, you can simply just select it from your tree and hit delete, and it will get rid of that. Yeah, if you need to hide things, so like here's this door, maybe that's going to prevent us from selecting what we want. I can expand this here. I can find the door. I think it's probably this thicken command, and I can just click on hide. Yeah, so for example, if I want to now position this interior box, I might load the mate command, click on this top and this top. So it just kind of aligns it. I might click on like this face and this face. so it aligns it. And then at this point, I might just kind of want to visually position this, you know. I don't want it poking out the back, so right when I see that corner appear, I'm just going to drag it forward. This is just kind of like a, let's call it sort of like a loose way to align this. Now, obviously, you can see that it doesn't match the profile of the design. There is a command within here that does align this. Let's see if can I edit this part? So you can edit parts within an assembly. What I'm unsure of at this point, if I can edit a part within a second assembly. So I'm going to try this. Okay, so I need to save this first. So I'm going to say File, Save As. And it's always a good idea to save as you go so that you don't lose your work. So now let's see if I can edit this part. So I'm right-clicking on this, again, because I want to trim this, and now that it's aligned to this toaster body, I can see it. So I'm going to select this and click on Edit Part. Fantastic, it's letting me. And you'll notice there's this suppressed, you know, it's even labeled Match to Cut Your Design. So I can unsuppress this. I can actually edit this sketch. And now if I take sort of a side view, I can kind of see, right, where this design ended up. And again, everyone's design may be different. So, you know, in this case, I may want to load a sketch fillet here. I seem to recall that it was like 2 inches. You know, if that's too big, you can make it a bit smaller. But now you can see it kind of follows our design closely. You can edit this sketch. And there you can see the like interior body now matches a bit better. And we can, it's a little bit confusing. It's sort of like Sketch World, where you go into like a different level. You can see that the part we're editing is a solid color. Everything else becomes this kind of like transparent wireframe. And it's just like Sketch World, I know I'm there because of this like edit part icon, and because edit component looks like it's pressed down here. So when I'm done, I can click out of that, and now everything's aligned. I can also go back to my main toaster body here and show the door again. And now it's starting to look like a real toaster. The last things to do are the handle and the knobs. So again, I'm going to load the mate command. I'm going to just sort of, you know, select this face and select this face. Everything doesn't necessarily need to be fully defined. I can, for example, the knobs, I can select like the bezel in this face so that it aligns that. Here's a good example of like, I can't really see, I guess I can still see the connector piece. There are ways to select things a little bit more efficiently. So for example, I can select not a face but an edge of this knob, and I can select this edge here, and you can see it just sort of kind of snaps it quickly into position. If, for example, you can't see this thing, again, I can just barely see it, but let's say you can't. Again, reminder, you can just exit the mating command, drag it to a place where you have more access to it, reload the command, click on, you know, in this case, maybe this face and this face here, and you can see it kind of just snaps into position. This handle doesn't need to be fully defined. One thing like that I would probably do is you can also mate with planes. So I can take the right plane of the handle and find the right plane of, let's say, the toaster interior, because that way they'll be centered on each other, and I can mate them together. Let's say that your handle is not in the orientation you want. You can use this move component. So obviously mine's in the right orientation, but I'll show you what it might look like if it's in the wrong orientation. Let's see. You know, it may come in, whoops, that's move. I wanted rotate. You know, maybe it came in this way for you. So again, the way to do that, I mean, you kind of just saw what I did, but to talk through it, you select the part you want to move, click on move component. I mean, there is a rotate component here, but it's the same command. You just need to look at the right drop down. So not move, but rotate. I like to use delta XYZ. I'm looking at this guide at the bottom, and I can see that it needs to rotate about this Z axis 90 degrees. So I can simply just type in 90 and click on apply, and then it moves it there. Sometimes also a mate can fix that. You can see like now it's, I don't know, it's kind of wobbly. This is again a good, or not wobbly, crooked. This is a good reason to use a mate like this right plane and the right plane of the into your box and mate that, and then it will straighten it out for us. And now we also know it's centered. And yeah, that should be all the assembly you need for this. The final thing you need to do, because this is like an InDesign file that's pointing to all of these different elements, is you need to package it properly, especially in order to submit this file for review. But this kind of also mimics like if you're working with other people and you need to share a file with someone else, especially if it's an assembly, this is a critical component. So you can simply just hit save. But in order to like share this or submit it or upload it, again, especially for this class for submitting, project 2 through 4, basically, you need to go to File and go to Pack and Go. And what this does is it just sort of, it creates a package of all the different links. Again, you're probably familiar with this with either Keyshot or InDesign. So you can either save it to a folder or save it to a zip file. I tend to save to a zip file, especially if I'm like uploading something to a client. And that's really all you need to do is just follow these settings and then just click save. It helps to know like kind of where it's going, right? So this is, it'll default to the same location where all the files are saved. It thinks a bit and that's it. Everything should be in there. If it's an important file, it's a good idea to double check that the pack and go saved by like opening it and checking it. All right, and that's assemblies.